Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I have two more guests with me who are going to be kind of engaging with me on a very somewhat controversial topic. A topic that I think many of us South Africans need to be having, but we kind of shy away from it for various reasons. But hopefully today we can kind of have a snapshot of the Black South African youth experience. I know that this might come across a little bit biased, but as I've said before on my channel, this is Black experiences within the South African context. I am a Black female and all I know is what I'm living at this moment. So of course we'll try our best to be as unbiased as possible, but this is just our experiences and no, disrespect to anyone who is not within the Black experience. But before we jump into the topic for today, I want to first introduce you to the guests that I'm honored to have with me today. On my right hand side we have Anati Managa, a friend of mine from university. And on the left hand side we have a person who I've known pretty much all my life. We have Tato Khatebe, who is a co-owner of Boxtown in Midrand, the lovely venue that we are at today, so thank you very much for hosting us. I'm going to just jump straight into it. As I said, so today it's a topic that is a little bit controversial, and that is race and racial dynamics within the South African context. We're not only in an election year, but we are in an election month. A few days from now we will be all hopefully voting, yes. And I think the difficulty that we're having at the moment is some of us are not knowing who to vote for and in which direction to go. And with the people who I've had conversations with, we found that race plays a big part in the question of who are you going to vote for and why are you going to vote for them. Whether we like it or not, our country is politically driven, and a lot of the issues that we have are as a result of the race dynamics. And so in just making sense of how we are living the South African lifestyle as Black individuals in this day and age, I thought that we would kind of jump straight into it and see what it means to be a Black South African 25 years after the Rainbow Nation has been developed. I think the reason why I'd wanted to talk about this more than anything, for a couple of years now, I don't know about you guys, but for a couple of years now, I found myself kind of learning to become more comfortable in my Black skin. And what I mean by that is, for the longest time, I grew up in a very Model C type of space. I mean, you and I went to Model C schools, so did you, Anati. And there is a particular type of demographic that you become exposed to. Yeah. It's predominantly white, it's predominantly English, and a lot of the practices are westernized. And so when you go and you engage with people who are of the same race as you, sometimes you find that it's hard to relate, and you end up feeling as though it is your fault. And now this is my personal experience, where I had some of my cousins at some point making me feel as though I wasn't enough or Black enough because of the experience that I was blessed enough to be engaged in. I didn't make the choice, but that's just how life dealt its hand to me. And sometimes you felt like, okay, that is my fault. And I feel as though in the building and the development of the apartheid era and what it had done to a lot of our parents and grandparents, the same type of fault was placed on them based on the color of their skin when they had no say in the matter. I can't help the fact that I was born in the skin, but you were ostracized, you were oppressed, you were degraded for what it is you were brought into without much option or choice. And so as I was reading and just thinking about this topic, I started realizing, okay, so as I was growing up, I kept thinking, but this is not fair. Let me just try and fit into what is more comfortable or what is more accepted. And as I've been growing up and as I'm approaching 30, I find myself being more of, no, I'm seeing things a little bit differently. I don't know about you guys. Where the Black experience is becoming more real and comfortable for me. Where it's becoming more recognizable, and I think the struggles of the past are becoming more understandable. Why some people have their opinions as strong as they are. Well, of course, some of them I don't completely agree with, but their opinions are becoming more and more valid to me. And they impact psychologically, because at the end of the day, we've got to remember that this is a psychological topic that we have to really engage with. Yeah. it's not fair for us to say it's just about the color. No, it goes way beyond
It also
that.
goes into your mentality of how you process this race.
Yes, absolutely. And from the processing comes the behavior, comes the actualization, and comes the performance of, okay, so now how do I live this black life?
Yeah.
I think a couple of days ago I watched Beyonce's Homecoming docu. She says that the reason why she decided to do her Coachella performance based on that was in order for the black society to recognize that they too are valid, that their culture is important. And I think I remember one of the quotes that had come up there was, you can't be what you don't see. And that was her driving force of, you need to recognize that you can be something as long as you can recognize the representation in a skin that resembles yours.
Yes.
And when we think about where our parents, our forefathers came from, they were limited to particular areas of life based on what it is they were told they could exist as. So a domestic worker is the end of your rope, or at the most a nurse. You didn't hear of lawyers. You didn't hear of surgeons.
They cut you off
Every
from that.
every so often you'd hear a lawyer, but not, it wasn't mainstream
Yeah.
for the black people. Yeah.
They got
Exactly,
lucky.
exactly. Or they were in some instances considered the good black.
Yes. No, there is such a thing of like the good black, the one that we can control. We can put you up there on the pedestal, but you know that you're listening to us. You're not actually speaking where you want.
There's what's happening in the country, and I don't know if we're jumping too further ahead, but there are things where politically, being the good black, there are black people who have been put in position right now, and they're the ones that are being controlled, like the exact same thing that we're talking about now. You are being put in a position right now, and you may look as if you are in power, but whatever's happening right now is being controlled. You're like a puppet.
Yes.
Whether it's even the president of the country.
Yeah.
If you think of, he's a billionaire.
Yeah.
So him becoming a billionaire, having come from the same struggle that everyone else has come from, and him being in a position that he's in, it's happened because there was a lot of overseeing power that kind of put him where he's in right now.
Yeah.
Quote unquote white power.
Quote unquote
Yeah, well,
white
obviously,
power.
the private sector. Thank you. The private sector is owned by who? Obviously. So those are the people that are controlling everything. Because as much as we can say, the government owns this, the government owns that, they are basically owned by the private sector.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter when we can say that this is our land. No, it's the private sector's land, regardless of what happens.
Absolutely.
The private sector is white
Exactly.
in South Africa.
Yes.
We are living it.
We literally are living it. Even if we can put it into the everyday life, where I could say I've met a lot of people that I went to school with or anything like that, especially black people, they have now thrown away their culture so that they fit into the Western life. They prefer to know the history and the lives of the Jewish people, the Russian people, the English people, and instead of actually going and digging up their own culture and their own past to even know that, okay, this is why I am who I am, this is why I have this name, this is why I am black. Do you know what I mean? They would rather be comfortable in a setting where, because the world is so westernized, I am going to be a westernized person.
But I think it's only fair for us then to have a conversation about, but is that their fault? And the reason why I say that, going back to the point that I had initially made about the society that we were placed in and the privileges that we had, there isn't enough dialogue, conversation about who it is and Setso sa rona, where we come from. So where do I go looking for this thing where the world is not encouraging that of me? Of course, when you get to a particular age, different story. If you really want to know about it, you should.
You will go in and search for it.
But it's human nature to stay in what is a comfortable space, because in comfort there's no change, and in change there's a level of predictability. And we all want to be able to know that if I take the first step from A to B, I know it'll lead to C and then D.
Okay.
Is it fair for us to point the finger and say, but you should do better if you don't know better?
We're not really pointing the finger, per se. I could say it's a sense of, for me personally, I grew up where one parent is more westernized, the other parent is not, okay? So, in a sense, where a person can point a finger at me and say, you should do better, but you don't know better. But at the same time, I point a finger at myself to say, why didn't I push my westernized parent? Why didn't I question my westernized parent, because I do have my black friends that know their culture, and they keep asking me, okay, so what about yours? Like, what do you do? Do you get what I mean? So it's not really pointing, it's just to say that within your own family, what's going on? When you look at yourself and you say, what is going on? Why are we westernized? Why do we have to be westernized? Like, where does it come from? And in terms of my side of my life per se, I could say on my westernized side, it's because of from grandparents. Grandparents have started the westernized life because they had the privilege during the apartheid time to travel.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Whereas the non-westernized parent, their parents did not have that luxury to travel. And hence as much as I could say we are westernized in the sense of when I go to my grandparents' house, I don't have to always do the dishes or make tea or do all of those things.
So different rules apply.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm just saying that, like, I'm not really pointing the finger. It's just that why aren't we questioning?
So the whole westernized thing, let's just remember like the broader scheme, not just in the country, just all over the world. Black people have always been oppressed, right? And that oppression came not only with a white person holding you back, but just in media in general. So because white is always right, you're now, because everyone wants to be light skinned, because again, it goes back to how white people have always been in power, and because of what they look like, you want to look like that because
so
you
want
also
to be
want
in power.
So because you want to be that person, you are going to do everything in your power to be like that person. So westernization is a result of you trying to be like that. So it's a matter of survival as well. And because you had to survive, how do you break that thing moving into a space where everybody's now seen as equal?
Absolutely. And I think that's where this conversation is the most pertinent, because we speak of this equalness after 94, where everything was just, okay, siyabonga, we are sorry.
Who said sorry?
Thank you for that. I think I want to bring us back to something that I've been hearing a lot of the past couple of days. So I watch the news a lot lately, and especially I've been following a lot of the political things going on at the moment. And I'm sure you guys are very familiar and aware with the fact that the old apartheid flag is resurfacing.
Yes.
The whole hate speech notion about how putting up this flag, which is a symbol of a lot of deaths, a lot of heartache and full-on trauma, where people were living lives that many of them cannot even look past at this day and age because of just how hard the situations were, generationally, economically, personally, mentally, psychologically. They are now bringing this flag back up and stating that it's not hate speech, because hate speech has to be a verbal statement. This is a struggle that I'm experiencing right now, and I remember hearing, and this is something also was showing up a lot on my timeline, on my Twitter timeline, where someone was saying the issue that we're experiencing now with the Rainbow Nation is that we as black individuals, as black South Africans, have forgiven people who had not asked for forgiveness, who had not initially apologized. So then that brings me to, when you think about parties such as the BLF, who are saying straight up, listen, we don't want anybody who ain't black. It has to be only black members in our party. We think of political parties such as the EFF, and even many others actually, even like the ATM and them, who are referring to land expropriation, bringing the land back. And we think about all these things that are happening as a result of complete inequality and trying to rebalance that out with notions of the BEEs, based on what it is we've just been discussing, on how we are now trying to reclaim and better recognize everything that was taken away from us. Because stages of colonization and just the gold rush, when we think of Jan van Riebeeck, he came into this country and apparently discovered Cape Town. We have Cecil John Rhodes, who came to Kimberley, where there was already diamonds. He discovered diamonds in Kimberley. We find that we have these Western and white foreign individuals coming in and claiming and discovering things that had already existed and had already been discovered by the people who were there already. But I think my question is going back again to that whole thing of we're giving a level of forgiveness to people who never apologized, and giving people claim of things, or rather forgiving people for taking things from us without having necessarily asked. As I said, the land, as I said, our minerals, our resources. Can we blame people like the BLF? Can we blame people like the individuals in this country who say that no black person can be racist? Is it fair what they're saying?
No.
Look,
For me, I don't want to fight fire with fire, right? But I get their anger. And I get why they're doing what they're doing. It's just to be like, I'm showing you what you did to me, I'm going to do it to you. And that's basically what their attack is, right?
Is that adult though?
It's not. And I feel as though, but then at the same time, were they allowed to actually live as a proper adult? Or were they just shunned as just an object or an animal? Do you get what I mean? So from the apartheid era, you had that thing of the black people were just treated as animals, treated like nonsense, treated like a piece of dude. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear. But that mentality, you don't grow. Your mentality doesn't grow into a factor of saying that, like, now I'm an adult, I need to logically understand what I'm doing and what I'm putting forward, right? Because you were not allowed to put yourself in that space. So now they're taking that mentality of their forefathers or whatever and bringing it here and saying, because they were treated like animals, we don't do the same thing to you. And that's not right.
Okay.
Do you get what I mean? It's not going to solve anything. What is it going to solve? It's just going to cause another fight.
Yes.
Why are we going to fight fire with fire?
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense.
I completely agree with that. Like, okay, also I get exactly where EFF and Black First, Land First is coming from.
Yes.
Because again, they're trying to make the right
To right the wrong.
to right the wrong.
Okay.
But again, like what
They're
you're
doing
saying,
it wrong.
yeah. Me, I'm kind of on the fence with this whole thing because it's like, okay, you know the whole story of people want the land back, right? And it's all good to want the land back, but then what are you gonna do with the land? My solution to this whole thing would be fine. Let's say now the EFF wins and okay, there's expropriation of land without compensation. Cool. Now this white person is being kicked out. You now have 20 hectares of land. You don't have the skills at the moment, right? What are you going to do with the land? I think say it's a farm, it's a chicken farm, whatever the case is, and this person has no idea how to do chicken farming.
Yes.
You now have to somehow transfer those skills onto that person, but I don't think it should be 100% where the white person gets kicked out.
Okay.
Because again, the fire with fire, like what Anati is saying, it's not going to solve anything. If anything, it's going to make things worse. So it should be an exchange where if it's you own 100% of the land as a white person, you give the black person 60, you keep 40. Everyone can still eat. The same, that's what BE is, by the way. BE is
No,
not a bad
BE
product.
is reverse racism.
No, it's
No,
not.
babes. That's
the first
That's the
racism.
problem with the whites not looking at the terms and conditions properly. They just saw black and were like, done.
Okay. I think when I think about that statement that you're
That's
speaking,
just how I feel.
I think when you think about that statement that you're telling us, it's where it's a transfer or
Has to be.
redistribution of the
Has
power
to keep
of
the
the
country,
land.
yes.
What is to be said for the white young man living Honako Freestata, for instance? He says to you, fine, I can understand that my great-great-grandfather did this to you, but I didn't do it to you. How is this my problem now? What do you then say to him?
It's
Because
your problem now because you are still benefiting.
From what he did.
This is you having benefited from it. Yes, it wasn't your fault, but then you must recognize that you still got some sort of backing behind you. Even if you give something away, you're still gonna be fine.
Yes.
So that's where yes, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything personally, but the fact that if you give something away, you are still, trust me, you're still gonna be fine as that white person.
So is it a principle more based issue where even though it wasn't your experience or your actions that brought about that outcome, the principle lies on the fact that your lineage has a lot to do with where it is you are able to stand right now with the privilege that you live in.
We could reverse it in a sense of, I was not there when my great-grandfather was being beaten in prison
But I'm
because
still
he was
suffering
black.
today.
But I'm still suffering today because he could not provide for my family.
Oh.
Now we are left
So
with
can we look at it
uneducated
that way?
people, and my grandmother is paying with all the peanuts that she has for me to actually go to school. Majority of the people that are under NASFA, so any type of scholarship, are black.
Okay.
So
Do you
I
get what I
wasn't
mean?
there when your great-grandfather beat my great-grandfather, but I'm
Yes.
still suffering today.
Those
Yes.
impacts.
So can we look at it that
So
way?
it seems like that maybe the impacts are positive on one end and negative on the other. So generational.
Majority of the time,
Okay.
depending on, for example, like us, we went to a World Sea School. Our parents got to a point where they were able to provide for us, to a point where they could even afford for us to go to varsity and all that stuff, afford to get us whatever we have right now. But the mere fact that the majority of our own race cannot benefit from that. I literally.
Whereas with the white person who lives in this privilege, as I say, you have been taught, trust me, because your parents have money, they know how to teach you how to use the money. So as I say, if you give me half of or 60% of what you have, because of the education you've got, and I promise you have it, you will be able to make your own way back again. Whereas the black person who doesn't have that, that's why it has to be a taught thing.
Yes.
Where transfer it nicely, you'll still keep 40 and I'll keep 60. One must be kicked out. I don't believe that's the right thing to do.
Yes.
But that whole first thing you're saying, I'm thinking back to experiences like that.
Because we don't have that education within our black race.
Yeah.
It poses the question to me. We are 25 years later.
Yeah.
Where did we miss it, guys? In your opinion?
First and foremost, I was told when I was abroad by a Kenyan man. He comes to me and he says, why don't you guys just kill off all the white people and start afresh? And
we do not control any killing of anybody on this channel.
And I was in shock and I asked him, why would you state that to me? And he says, they're the ones that ruined you. And you didn't even you didn't punish them enough to understand how much they ruined you.
There's a fire against fire thing.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I was upset about. And I said, okay, fine. I sense why you would say we didn't punish them enough. But we started in a sense of when we got our democracy and this Archbishop decided we're going to have the TRC. And what did it do for us? Whoever apologized, there was one man that apologized to a family for killing a son or something like that, and he had to wash their feet. And then what?
Wow!
He went on with his life with all the money he had, with his lifestyle. It never changed. All he had to do was say, sorry, I wash your feet, I'm done. We didn't actually go through a process of saying that, okay, this is the wrong that occurred. We need to go through a step by step to understand why it went wrong and actually come to a proper solution instead of just saying sorry. Because I could just pinch you right now and say sorry. Do I mean it? No.
Who's stuck with that pain?
Who's stuck with that
scar
pain?
Even maybe in some capacity. Yeah.
We never actually went and healed those wounds. No one's healed because I still get triggered to this day. I wasn't even an idea when the real depths of about to happen, but I still get triggered because my family's not healed. Do you hear what I mean? So we need to be healed before we can actually move forward. We just jumped that stage.
I think it also comes back to us because of all of this. Many of our people hate and despise their blackness in whatever capacity. If it's that no,
because
if it's shame,
When you're trained
or the style of your hair.
right is all right.
Yes.
It goes back to that thing. That's what it is. If you're a white person on planet Earth, you just have it. And again, it's that whole thing of you can't explain it for whatever reason. You have it
Everywhere in the world.
everywhere in the world.
And we do it to ourselves because also think about this. When you go to a restaurant, there's a black waiter or waitress.
Yeah.
The three of us go in and you sit down. What do you want?
Yeah.
That is how he or she would react to us.
Yeah.
Coming to another like three people come in and they're white. Oh, hi, how are you? What would you like to eat? Or should I give you a little bit of time?
Even at a mall when you're parking or when you're about to with your groceries.
Yes.
The parking or go to the white person because they know probably you'll get a bigger tip or whatever the case is.
That time I could be balling, my nigga. I could be balling and I could have given you 100.
This goes back again, guys, to the psychological impact. And I think, to some degree, the ruining of what that Kenyan man said to you.
Yes.
I think we need to take a moment really about that. Ruin is a strong word, yes. But I think it hits a nerve, and I think it hits a nerve for me because when we think about the notion of ruining, it's completely destroying and irreparable damage to some degree. When we think about how it is we engage with each other, whether within the workspace, within a social space, or within even our familial spaces, there are some things that have occurred that have forced us to not be as welcoming, as accommodating of each other in the same way that we would be of other races. In the same way as when you're walking into a business meeting. Fine, you are likely to engage and recognize people of the same race, hey, dumela, le guy, whatever it is. But for some reason, and I know for me sometimes, I tend to find myself having to impress a person of a different race.
Yes.
Because again, my mind is on, okay, so they must be at a high level, and that's probably not even the case.
I must show them that I am better than what you see.
It is, and it's a me thing. And then it's completely me that I feel as though I need to prove to
You're
you.
not enough. Right?
Yes, because I am feeling sick, but because of your whiter skin, your lighter skin, your longer hair, your straighter hair, I am assuming that you might be my superior. That is a ruined mentality. That is a damaged and irreparable thought process that many of us are living through. Even though we were not there, our minds are still playing these games.
No, our minds are always play these games because subliminally, whatever we watch, whatever we interact with, has always said the black person is the wrong person.
That's the problem that I think I have right now.
It's a big problem.
Huge problem.
I don't know what it's like. You know how white people have privilege and privilege that they don't sometimes accept or recognize, and that's where the biggest problem comes in.
Yes.
I don't know what to call it for us. We have black oppression.
I have an answer to that a little bit, which might be an answer to why people feel the way that they do. Because, again, it goes back to crime. Why crime happens and why black people are the ones that do the crime,
Perpetrate,
right? So if you don't have anything, a lot of times, I mean, people don't rob because they want to rob. So and again, I'm not condoning people
Robbing. He's not known. He's not
like
doing
that. But I'm saying, if you're going to rob somebody, you want to take the cell phone so you can sell it because you probably have a family at home. So who are the people who are suffering in the country?
Black people.
So who are the ones that are probably, I say
Going to
probably,
steal.
going to do the crime? Black people. So now, if you're a black person, and yes, let's be honest, the majority of the crime is black people because we are the ones that are suffering. So you're gonna do that, and that's why that kind of thinking is there because it's like. But now it's like everyone is being painted with the same paintbrush. It's like
Yeah.
you see a black person, they are probably gonna steal. But the reason why that is because people are stealing who are black because they don't have anything. I have
So
to
the
give
root
you
issue is
the
what
root
it
issue,
is.
Yes. Poverty. There's no if you don't have anything, you're going to try and make ends
Something.
meet somehow. So
Out
you're
of-
gonna try and
You're trying to make something, guys. Like, that's
yeah.
just
So
what it
it's
is.
the black
Devil's
people that are doing it.
advocates. Devil's advocates.
Good
So
for
we're
you.
saying that we need to recognize that the root issue for many black individuals is I'm doing this in order to provide for my family. Can we not in some way also say that with white individuals, they are doing it because it is what their known is, their understanding and their
Doing what? They're doing what?
the recognition, the experience of the privilege. What I'm trying to say, do you understand what I'm saying? What I'm trying to say is, we're saying that we need to understand the reason behind the stealing, the mentality, because it's rooted in poverty. With white individuals, the rooting of the privilege is just a way of life. Can we condemn them for what it is a natural thing and a way of normal survival in the same way that for a black individual, it is, I don't want to say it's normal, but it is just a
It
means
is
of
our norm.
survival.
It is our
We
norm
shouldn't
in a way.
condemn them, but they also need to recognize.
So both parties
Yeah.
need to
They need to
atone
Recognize,
for it.
yeah, so basically, like, in terms of us having our poverty, we also need to recognize where we got it from, as much as they need to recognize where they got their privilege
Yeah,
from.
so just recognize.
Just reckon. All we need is for you to recognize, because I mean, there's this baby
Don't
girl.
forget about it all.
Yeah, there's this baby girl that said to us, they questioned us the first week, it's your first week in varsity, how do you feel? And she's non-black, and she said, I'm out of my comfort zone, I have to interact with people I've never had to interact with before.
Welcome to South Africa.
Welcome, yes. And obviously all the black people look at each other like, yeah, we know what to talk about, because we understand that you're already seeing people that are underprivileged. After a test, baby girl heard me speaking to one of my friends after a test, and she heard my accent. Because I don't speak like a black person. She came to me and started asking me questions. And I was so triggered by the fact that she did not recognize her privilege and didn't recognize our poverty. And took it as if, when you're brushing past a person and they're dirty, you're like, ish. That was her mentality of brushing past black people on campus. This is your campus. You want to be an educator. You're going to interact with kids that come from, especially because of teaching experience, you're not going to a private school.
Yes,
But just understand, you're not going to a private school. You're going to a government school. You're going to interact with kids that don't have anything.
Yeah.
And the mere fact that my accent was not like a black person's accent in her mind, I'm at the same level and space as her. The mere fact that she did not recognize the fact that her privilege is making her think like this, and our poverty is making us behave and react like this, is where I got pissed off.
So who is Who is supposed to apologize in this? Must the black person who is living off of a survival tactic of I don't want to die therefore poverty need to apologize for their poverty? Does the white person who comes from a privilege that they're blessed of apologize for the fact that their life is the way their life is? Are we all supposed to apologize? Is it fair that everyone should be apologizing? Because what we're saying in essence is everyone's reality right now and the reality of South Africa and the race dynamics are based on things that are very outside of our generation. I didn't make my ancestors come from a poverty-stricken space. In the same way, my white counterparts did not make their ancestors come from a white privileged space. So who is to apologize? Who is to atone? Who is to say, okay, I'm sorry? Because none of us have any part in it. So is it fair for me to look at you and say, because you came from where it is you come from, you need to just sorry? But in the same way, because where I came from, I need to apologize because I need to save, I need to steal from you in order for me to help my family
Does it
survive.
have to be an apology thing?
We can heal without an apology. We just have to go through the process of saying, I recognize this.
I don't think that space, they shouldn't be necessarily, I'm sorry that I'm poverty stricken, so I'm now going to rob you, or I'm sorry that I have all this wealth based on what my forefathers did. It's that thing of recognition. I just think there has to be proper healing, that there has to be some sort of recognition that you as the white person must understand and recognize the privilege that you have.
Yes. Understand it fully. Don't just say, yes, I'm privileged. Fine, we get it. We all see that you're privileged. You just need to understand how that privilege has helped you. Okay. Right? How that privilege has put you in the position that you're in, how it has made some sort of comfort for your life compared to your black counterpart.
Yeah, and when we move forward from that is a difficult one. I don't know how, but it's just
they
shouldn't be just forget about it. It happened 25 years ago. Leave it alone. Get over it.
Yeah. This get over it thing gets me so mad.
Go from there though. That's still a difficult one to get past.
We're basically at a place in our lives where we're trying to right the wrongs of more than 300 years in a space of 25.
That's not gonna happen.
And it's crazy how in psychology we always say that in order for you to move past something, you not only have to recognize it, but you have in recognizing it, then you go to a space of understanding the root of it, and then from there moving forward. We know and we fully accept this every single time. When someone, for instance, is addicted to whether it be drugs or alcohol, we always say the person needs to hit rock bottom, and they need to recognize that they have the problem, so that they can move forward.
But it's sort of like
when we talk about this race thing, we don't seem to kind of recognize that in the same way. Where we need to recognize the fact that this is the thing that is for reals in conversation, understand why it is happening, so we can move forward.
We were all conditioned into seeing race the way we see race, but when are we ever going to be deconditioned into that? That thing to say of we're not actually what we really think we are, what we're conditioned to think we are.
It was a process that started but wasn't effectively
reversed. Because the thing is, regardless, in psychology we have to condition to decondition to understand if this works or doesn't work. We have to structure to deconstruct, and we haven't deconstructed the structure that has been built over 300 years ago.
We haven't been debriefed, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't mean a debrief.
There hasn't been a debrief.
The TRC was a good idea, it just didn't achieve what it needed to achieve.
Yes.
Because of the concept is good, that it got the conversation started, but I don't think there was any
follow up. In my opinion,
follow up and let's call it follow up, but also there wasn't a sense of I recognize what I've done, and as a result this is how I or my family will try and
compensate
and help. Because all the TRC was, okay, you were part of the apartheid police, you were part of 1976, the Soweto riots. I remember shooting 12 kids.
You don't even know their names, you don't even know their faces.
And it just ended there. You apologized, okay, thank you.
Next.
There's a thing of, they say apartheid ended in 19. It didn't end. It's still happening.
It's still happening now.
It's illegal.
Yes.
Here's the thing. Apartheid has been
illegal.
It's still happening. It's just now illegal.
That just hit me. Wow. Very
true. That's all it is.
true.
It didn't end.
No.
Very true.
Yes. It didn't end. It just became illegal.
What we're dealing with is what we are willing to allow.
Yes.
because, as you're saying, in terms of the smoking, you're not allowed to smoke, but because you and the societal space speaks to it being a decision that you make, then that's completely different. So that's what we're dealing with right now. That if we would rather put people in their places for these bad, ruthless, and very, very racist acts, much like that. What's her name? Penny Sparrow. Is it Penny Sparrow? No.
Whatever
Penny Sparrow,
her
but then
name
also the
is.
other lady who said the K word 40 odd times to those
Also, that man that went to
Bonaba.
those
overseas.
islands and just
You have to answer and for
that-
these things that you're doing. And so if we are in a space where we're allowing the illegal,
To illegal. Hence why they did the whole hate speech thing. Yeah, no Penny Sparrow, went to prison or they got charged with other cases because it is illegal, but it doesn't mean that it's ended. I think that's what we kind of have to understand and accept that. At Bryce, people, if you were racist, now bad, and then by 12 o'clock today, but okay, it's illegal to be racist. Your mind is not going to change.
yeah,
Because you know you've been conditioned. Again, it's that
Hey.
thing, you've been conditioned because of whatever it is. But it's still happening. The way that you're thinking, I don't know, the psychology of it has to come into play. Like understanding where this kind of hate is coming from or why it's being done.
I think South Africans are just not considerate. We're not considerate of each other.
no, we're not.
The things that we do, the images that we show, the conversations that we have, whether it be in our small braais as it's okay because we're all white and we can say this, or it's okay because we're all black and we can say this. That just goes and means that we're just inconsiderate of each other. And we're doing it behind closed doors, thinking that it's okay because it's not fully expressed. And it goes back to what you're saying. The illegal acts are taking place behind closed doors and we're assuming that it's a clean slate in everyone's head. So I think in closing, I want to ask you guys, where to from here? I remember you said you're not sure, but realistically, knowing that we're going to be getting into our own marriages and becoming parents of our own children, where to from here?
For me, I feel because I might, it's not a guarantee, I might add on to my next generation, whatever. I start at home.
Okay.
I start at home. I educate my kids. I make sure that when you step out into this world, it's gonna be cool because you're black. But be proud of it because the only way they can take you down is if they see the weakness of your identity.
I think I'm the same. Again, think about these things for a long time. About okay, this is happening. How can one person just kind of? It's difficult being a black person, I suppose, in any space that you're in, because again, that white supremacy, white privilege thing. But for me, I think I agree with you, Anat. I think starting at home and recognizing that, telling your children or whoever it is that you are dealing with, that you are trying to talk to, that know that the world is not built for you.
Yeah.
The
Doesn't
laws,
owe you anything.
the laws that we have, it doesn't owe you anything. But just as long as you are comfortable and you know who you are, understand that you are a human being and treat people the same. I think it is important. I don't believe in an eye for an eye or fire with fire. I just think understand, recognize where you're coming from, recognize what has happened, so that you can see, man. Like you need to be aware of what's happening. That's kind of the message I'd send to my kids.
But yeah, I think thank you very much.
Thank you
both
for having us.
for joining me. I don't think the topic is over. I don't think this
It'll
topic
never
will
be
ever be exhausted until we can call a pig and accept it for it being that and be okay with it being that and being okay with talking about it being in that state. That's where South Africa is not yet, and I don't know if we'll get there anytime soon. We're too scared to face each other in an honest capacity. We're too scared to discuss these things honestly because it does. It triggers and it gets tempers flaring. So how you have that harmoniously is something that is, I think, beyond just a three-man conversation. But I hope that it has helped you kind of think about it differently. And if you have any comments, any experiences, any points of view, Please comment, share, join in the conversation in your own way. Thank you once again for joining us on Neo-Psych, and yeah, see you next time.